Hi guys, so today I'm going to be doing another one of my quarterly movie reviews. This is for October, November and December. There's quite a lot here, but I'm hoping it's going to be manageable because I've decided to break some of those away and do, you know, when I did like about 6 months ago monster movies I've watched, that sort of thing. I think I might do something like that, similar, for some horrors that I've watched. Just things that I have a little bit more maybe to talk about, or a few things that are similar in theme that I can group together and have a separate video for. So I'll let you know when that's the case, and hopefully I can get through this relatively quick. So obviously, kicking off with October, the first thing I watched was a documentary called The Real Story of Paris Hilton, This Is Paris, and it was one of YouTube's original documentaries. I actually gave this a 5 stars. So this was pretty emotional, which I wasn't expecting, because if everyone knows Paris Hilton, you know she's kind of like stoic. She has a very like poker face, and doesn't really express much, but this one was definitely emotional. Side note, if you hear a lot of noise, my cat's playing in a little tunnel thing that I got for Christmas, and she's obsessed with it, but she always starts playing whenever I'm about to film. It's like she knows. Anyway, this documentary is mainly going over Paris's traumatic experience, going to these like prison type of boarding schools. I think they're kind of like reform schools, so to speak, like these emotional growth programs that are really traumatic in nature and the opposite of what they say they do. There were some illustration scenes kind of drawing out the depiction of the nightmares that she was getting in relation to the trauma and the memories as well, and it was just so heartbreaking while she was kind of recounting her experiences and getting in touch with other people that went to those schools. But in saying that, it was really insightful as well, and emotional, because I didn't really know anything about this going on. It's quite a big scandal actually, especially amongst the celebrity world, where if they've got a child that's unruly, kind of drawing bad attention to the household, they send them to these schools. But then you wonder, how has no one spoken up so loudly about it until now? To my knowledge, I don't know, when there is so many celebrities that went there. But yeah, I'm glad she managed to connect and participate in a campaign to end all the trauma, or to try to anyway, caused by these schools. It's odd to say because it's a documentary and it's real life, but I feel like it could have gone even deeper. But I totally understand it had to be in measure of what she was comfortable with, you know. The outro music of the slow version of Girls Just Want to Have Fun with childhood clips really broke my heart. But yeah, this is just such an interesting documentary. Even if you don't like Paris Hilton, I don't really have an opinion on her. She seems to have blown up on YouTube of late, but you know, I still think it's worth the watch if you're interested. Then I finished up my Harry Potter sort of marathon. Some of you may know, if you watch a lot of my book videos, that I was reading the series for the first time, and I've recently just finished. So I finished up with Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1, followed by Part 2, which I've already spoken about in the reading vlogs, so I will link the last reading vlog if you're interested. Then going into November, I picked up a film that I bought on a whim, wow, a good few months ago, and it's called Siren, or The Siren, and it says underneath, Love Will Haunt You. Apparently it was a Fright Fest Presents, which I didn't notice in the corner there. Yeah, I gave this a 1 star. I was very sadly disappointed with this. So this is one of those reviews where I could have done a separate video for it, but I'd rather just include it in here because, I mean, I've got enough videos for the horror film one that I want to do. Anyway, I'll just read you the synopsis on the back quickly. Tom rents a cabin on a secluded lake marked by a local legend of a lovelorn spirit who haunts the surrounding woods and drowns anyone she encounters. Drawn to her immediately, Tom knows he has found his soulmate in the seemingly human Nina, who must battle to repress her demonic instincts when she feels the same towards him. Meanwhile, a man possessed by vengeance circles the pair, getting ever closer to tracking down the monster that murdered his husband. Part dark fairy tale and part elegant nightmare, The Siren is a heart-wrenching story of passion and revenge that will take hold of you and never let you go. Yeah, I didn't get that. It's a very quiet yet eerie film in tone and atmosphere. We have a mute main character, which I like in terms of diversity. Also on like a stylistic level, I guess you could say, it builds on the tension as he can't physically shout out or scream or warn vocally if danger is about. And that is a layer that builds really well for the atmosphere of this movie throughout it. As the synopsis says, we follow another character also who's trying to avenge the death of his husband. So you can see the dual narrative and compare and contrast, particularly in the curiosity of Tom and the mystery surrounding our other guy. The camera play uses techniques of following our character. I think this could have slowed a little bit because my eyes were really drawn to the shakiness, and that tends to make me feel sick. Like I can't imagine watching this in the cinema, because on such a big scale that would have made me feel ill, and it made me feel a bit sick on my TV screen. Yeah, but as I say, unfortunately I very much disliked this film. There was so much heavy breathing, it was incredibly slow, and felt like nothing happened. Quite honestly, I was really bored. It was deceiving with the title, The Siren. They didn't put enough of the Rusalka mythology into play, I felt. Because I believe there are differences within cultures and different mythology and cultural ideas about water spirits and sirens and mermaids, but I feel like this version, it just wasn't, whatever they were trying to do, it wasn't emphasised enough for me. There were so many black screens, very anticlimactic and odd, just lacked substance overall. My partner agreed that so much more could have been done with this. I was just really disappointed. Yeah, it really wasn't what I was expecting. I don't know, it was kind of cool with some of the techniques, but it just wasn't executed very well at all, unfortunately. And then kicking off with those films that I'm going to include in a separate video, which I will link in the cards when it's available, we have The Devil, so I'm going to just swiftly move on now. I next watched Doom, which was a wild ride. I gave this one 3 stars. It's got The Rock in it, so of course it's going to be extra and epic. Basically, this is a sort of like Black Ops team that gets sent on a mission to another planet that's in the process of being colonized by man, and they come to find it's more of an intense mission than they originally expected, with murderous creatures on the loose and having to kind of stop that coming down to earth. It was super over the top, especially near the end. I said that it looked like a first-person shooter, and then my boyfriend clarified that it was actually based off of a game, and that's when it all made sense, and I was just like, okay, let me just enjoy this for what it is now. But yeah, it was so over the top, really cheesy, but it was definitely entertaining. So I mean, I enjoyed it. It was alright. I gave it 3 stars. Then I watched Hail Satan, which was a documentary on Netflix, and it's a documentary following a satanic temple and really their journey trying to get mainstream, get into the state to put their statue of Baphomet next to the 10 Commandments. It was just really weird, and I realised I haven't finished the review. It just felt strange, and honestly I don't know what really to give it. Maybe a 2 stars. It was just, I don't really have any thoughts. It was just a bit odd. And then I watched Purge Anarchy, and I gave this one a 3 stars. I haven't watched a Purge film since the first one, and the masks really terrified me, so I never went out of my way to watch them again. But this didn't scare me, which I'm kind of happy about. It was more action based, and I really enjoyed the relationships that grew. Usually I'd be very annoyed by an insta-love sort of situation, but The Purge seems like such an intense setting that I can sort of fully believe it. And I liked how our main guy cared for the kid rather than, oh, hot mum, I'm gonna save them. Do you know what I mean? I weren't even watching this film, but my boyfriend was. And then I definitely kept getting drawn to the screen, so I mean, I guess I was watching it by the end of it, and I actually really quite enjoyed it. So I don't know if I'll actually go out of my way to backtrack and watch the other Purge films, but just something to put on in the background and then get drawn to. It was a good watch, you know. One that I actively was super excited to try out was Hamilton, which I watched on Disney+, and I gave this one a 5 stars. So it's the filmed version of Broadway's play, and it blends many music genres together. It's about the American founding father, Alexander Hamilton. I really wasn't sure what to expect, because I assumed it was Shakespeare, and then I thought I saw images where it looked really modern, and I don't know, I was just really confused, so I just stuck it on just to kind of see where it went, especially as everyone that has mentioned it to me personally in my life, have enjoyed it. And I must say, I instantly got the face tingles. If you've heard me say that before, you'll know that when my face tingles, it's like pure excitement and enjoyment when I'm watching a TV show or a film or something, and it just makes me all giddy and I get so excited and I'm like, wow, this is amazing. It's like the ultimate compliment from my body. Which sounds really bizarre when I break it down like that. The King song was amazing, so funny, especially with his mannerisms. The actors were all amazing, but it was confusing when some of them played multiple characters. Like I generally got the gist, but they didn't look different enough, if you know what I mean, to be a different character. I don't know, I just got a bit confused, especially when I was so used to them as one character for the majority of it, and then they came in as a different character. It was just a bit confusing. Also, I love that there were so many black actors playing the lead. Awesome, really enjoyed it. Such a good musical, so interesting, educational, and I just loved the mashup of musical genre. Then I watched Heavy Metal. This one's a questionable 2 stars. This yeah, so I just came out of a migraine and was a little bit already out of it, and my boyfriend put this on and I was like, what the fuck. It's so bloody weird, very 80s. It's an anthology of futuristic, bizarre fantasy horror and eroticism short stories. It's surrounding this green orb that basically the embodiment of evil, and he features in each of the short stories in some manner or form. Our story kind of gave me a mixed vibe of Nausicaa of the Valley, which is a Studio Ghibli movie, and Futurama. It was a very odd combination. Before I read the blurb, I thought everything was progressing oddly fast, not knowing at the time that it was a collection of short stories, and now it kind of makes sense why the pacing was like so out there. But that's the only thing that really did make sense, so let's leave it at that. It was a trippy experience. And then I watched Don't Be a Menace. This was so crazy. I used to love the Wayans Bros TV show, but I realised I didn't watch a lot of the stuff as I was too young, like all the scary movies, and then like this film, because you know there's a lot of adult content in it, but this is like an over-the-top parody of life in the hood, and it was so funny. I really enjoyed it. I gave it a 4 stars. It was just such a silly film, really over the top, but just the tickle that I needed, you know. And then going into December, unfortunately the first thing I watched, although I gave it a 3 stars, it was kind of an underwhelming 3 stars, and that was Enola Holmes. I was finally trying it out, and as I say, it was a bit underwhelming. I like the cast of Millie Bobby Brown, Helena Bonham Carter and Henry Cavill. However, I just found the plot to be very lacking, and the fourth wall breaking, which I originally had been excited for, was pretty cringy. It was enjoyable, but it wasn't as good as I expected, and I feel like it got a lot of rave and hype around it, but I don't really know why. It was just an okay film. Then I watched Midsommar, which I'm going to be talking about in that other video. Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, which I'm also going to be talking in that other video. And then next up, that brings us to Suckerpunch, which I gave a 5 stars. I haven't seen this movie in ages, and I'm glad that I still enjoyed it. I love the music, the style, the plot. I just enjoy everything about this movie pretty much. It is disturbing, as it is about an abused girl that is taken to an asylum. And it's a bit of a trip, as in her mind, in order to cope and try to escape, she sees it as like a brothel, and she also sees it as a war, and it's all in order to kind of help her cope and escape, basically. And I love how anime-esque in style it is. It's so over the top and extra, but really beautifully designed, I feel. Then I watched Hereditary, which again is going to be in that other video. And then The Mask, which I gave a 4 stars. This may have been one of my earliest exposures to mythology. Although I know I watched this as a kid, I couldn't remember a thing about it, let alone that the mythology was surrounding The Mask. So that was like a fun rediscovery. It's so rude and funny. It was basically like watching it for the first time because I didn't really remember anything. And it kind of makes me think of the genie in Aladdin. It's that kind of humour, but like more adult, if you know what I mean. I really enjoyed it. Yeah, it was again another good laugh that I needed during a stressful year, you know. Then we decided to check out Mulan, which was the 2020 release. Everyone was so excited because it was getting pushed back, and then they said they were going to release it on Disney Plus, but then you'd have to pay extra. But I don't know what happened there. It was just on Disney Plus like normal, so I don't know if they just put it on like normal straight away or waited however long and then released it normally. I don't know. But this one I gave a 3 stars. I've only ever watched the original cartoon version like once or twice, and that was years and years ago when I was really young. So again, it was pretty much like a new experience for me entirely this time round. The vivid colours and scenery were stunning, as well as the instrumental hints of the well-known songs throughout. Some of the fighting stunts, especially from young Mulan, were super cringy. However, this was enjoyable and it had me immersed and inspired. I thought it was well done. I don't know a lot about that time period in history, so I don't know how accurate and historically correct it was, but it was good viewing. My partner put on the cartoon one like shortly afterwards. I wasn't really watching that, to be fair, because I was doing other things, but yeah, enjoyable. Another movie I was really excited for when the trailer first dropped that we didn't get around to seeing in the cinema was Onwards, which I gave a 4 stars. It makes me think of like a universal age rating of Bright, if you know that film on Netflix. This was a beautiful film about lost magic, lost family, but ultimately the coming together and appreciating and realising of what you have. I thought I'd cry, but not quite. It had an excellent cast and I loved the world, I loved the story, I loved the direction it went. It was such a feel-good movie. It was amazing. And it hit some harder topics in like a kids film than you would expect, so I liked how they handled that. Then I watched Elf, which I gave a 3.5 stars. It was my first time seeing this ever, and it was so much fun. I can't believe I've gone like 24 years in my life without ever watching this movie, and I can see why so many hold it so dear and so close to their hearts. I really did enjoy this one. Then we watched Mortal Engines, which I gave a 3 stars. I've wanted to check out the books, but it was more convenient just to see the movie as it was on Netflix, and it appealed to me as it's by the writers of Lord of the Rings, which I really love, and it had Robert Sheehan from Umbrella Academy and Misfits in it as well. Unfortunately, it was just okay for me. It was a fun bit of action, but I can't say I was paying much attention to it overall. Like, I definitely was scrolling on my phone and stuff, and it just didn't hook me as much as I hoped it would. Yeah, just an alright film, and now seeing that, I'm not sure if I'm entirely interested in going back and checking out the books. So if you read the books and you think they're great, you'll have to let me know, because I'm a bit now. I'm not too fast really. And then I watched the Babadook, and I decided just to include it in this video. I gave that one a 3 stars. So a lady is grieving and struggling with her child's behavioural issues. She goes through so many sleepless nights and torments, and that only accelerates when she is introduced to the Babadook in this strange story that no one really knows where the book came from. It just appeared. I only know that scene with the screaming why can't you be normal, you know, the one. The kid Sam was pretty expressive, and although that made me kind of laugh, he acted it really decently, I think. It was a bit of a weird one, but I sort of liked it. Again, it was one of those ones where I wasn't too sure what I'd get from it. It really focuses a lot on like dreams and the lack of sleep and the exhaustion behind it, and also obviously grief. That there's quite a lot of hard-hitting themes in it. But yeah, overall I think it was a good film. And then a really short one next, I watched Sweeny Todd, the story of the demon barber or something like that, and I gave this one 4 stars. Not sure if I've ever seen it fully before, but I enjoyed it. Amazing cast, tragic plot, simple review for that one. And then for the first time ever, I watched The Princess and the Frog. I know, I even mentioned in like a makeup video I did some months ago where I was testing out the Princess and the Frog makeup palette, though I'd never seen it, and I felt like a fraud for getting the palette because I had nothing, like, I didn't know anything about the story or whatever. But yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed this. It was so heartwarming. I loved the southern vibe, and the songs and music were absolutely fantastic. Despite not previously watching this before, I found that I knew quite a lot of the songs already, so it was an amazing experience all around. Okay, so that's wrapped up all the reviews that I wanted to talk about. I do have a few special mentions. I watched It Chapter 2 for the 2nd time. Because I wasn't scared out of my mind, I found it more generally entertaining, quite funny, emotional and very enjoyable. So yeah, because my bum wasn't like that, trying not to throw up in fear, I enjoyed the experience much more, I think. I could detach in that way, which I liked for this experience. I love the dig at Bill having shit endings to his books, as it's quite a savage dig at Stephen King, which obviously makes like a cameo in it. I also watched Knives Out and Bohemian Rhapsody, but I've talked about them before in the channel. Again, another amazing experience for those films. So that is it. Hopefully you'll look forward to the little reviews that I've got for some of the other horrors that I didn't mention here today. I've got my TV one to film and edit as well, so I shall get on to that at some point soon, I think. So yeah, let me know what movies you've been watching over the last quarter or so, or any new releases that you've checked out. I'd love to know. So yeah, I'll speak to you in another video soon. Bye.